Ra is the ancient Egyptian sun god. By the 5th dynasty in the 25th and 24th centuries BC, he had become a major god in ancient Egyptian religion, identified primarily with the noon sun. In later Egyptian mythology, dynastic times, Ra was merged with the god Horus as Ra-Horakhti, Ra, who is Hor of the two horizons. He was believed to rule in all parts of the created world, the sky, the earth, and the underworld. He was associated with the falcon or hawk. When in the New Kingdom and the god Amun rose to prominence, he was fused with Ra as Amun-Ra. During the Amarna period, Akhenaten suppressed the cult of Ra in favor of another solar deity, the Aten, the deified solar disk. But after the death of Akhenaten, the cult of Ra was restored. The cult of the Merwer bull, an embodiment of Ra, had its center in Heliopolis, and there was a formal burial ground for the sacrificed bulls north of the city. All forms of life were believed to have been created by Ra, who called each of them into existence by speaking their secret names. Alternatively, man was created from Ra's tears and sweat, hence the Egyptians called themselves the cattle of Ra. In the myth of the celestial cow, it is recounted how mankind plotted against Ra, and how he sent his eye as the goddess Sekhmet to punish them. When she became bloodthirsty, she was pacified by drinking beer mixed with red dye. Ra and the sun. To the Egyptians, the sun represented light, warmth, and growth. This made the sun deity very important, as the sun was seen as the ruler of all that he created. The sun disk was either seen as the body or eye of Ra. Ra was the father of Shu and Tefnut, whom he created. Shu was the god of the wind, and Tefnut was the goddess of the rain. Sekhmet was the eye of Ra and was created by the fire in Ra's eye. She was a violent lioness, Ra in the underworld. Ra was thought to travel on the Atet, two solar barks called the Manjet, the boat of millions of years, or morning boat, and the Mesektet, or evening boat. These boats took him on his journey through the sky, and the Duat, the literal underworld of Egypt. While Ra was on the Mesektet, he was in his ram-headed form. When Ra traveled in his sun boat, he was accompanied by various other deities, including Sia, perception, and Hu, command, as well as Heka, magic power. Sometimes members of the Aeneid helped him on his journey, including Set, who overcame the serpent Apep, and Mihen, who defended against the monsters of the underworld. When Ra was in the underworld, he would visit all of his various forms. Apep, the god of chaos, was an enormous serpent who attempted to stop the sunboat's journey every night by consuming it or by stopping it in its tracks with a hypnotic stare. During the evening, the Egyptians believed that Ra set as Atum, or in the form of a ram. The night boat would carry him through the underworld and back towards the east in preparation for his rebirth. These myths of Ra represented the sun rising as the rebirth of the sun by the sky goddess Nut, thus attributing the concept of rebirth and renewal to Ra and strengthening his role as a creator god as well. When Ra was in the underworld, he merged with Osiris, the god of the dead, and through it became the god of the dead as well. Ra as creator. Ra was worshipped as the creator god among some ancient Egyptians, specifically followers of his cult at Heliopolis. It was believed that Ra wept, and from his tears came man. These cult followers believed that Ra was self-created, while followers of Ptah believed that Ra was created by Ptah. In a passage of the Book of the Dead, Ra cuts himself, and his blood transforms into two intellectual personifications, Hu, or authority, and Sia, or mind. Re is also accredited with the creation of the seasons, months, plants, and animals. So iconography Ra was represented in a variety of forms. The most usual form was a man with the head of a falcon and a solar disk on top, and a coiled serpent around the disk. Other common forms are a man with the head of a beetle, in his form as Khepri, or a man with the head of a ram. Ra was also pictured as a full-bodied ram, beetle, phoenix, heron, serpent, bull, cat, or lion, among others. He was most commonly featured with a ram's head in the underworld. In this form, Ra is described as being the Ram of the West, or Ram in charge of his harem. In some literature, Ra is described as an aging king with golden flesh, silver bones, and hair of lapis lazuli. Worship, the chief cult center of Ra, was Iunu, the place of pillars, later known to the Greeks as Heliopolis, lit Sun City, and today located in the suburbs of Cairo. He was identified with the local sun god Atum. As Atum or Atum Ra, he was reckoned the first being and the originator of the Enid, the Nine, consisting of Shu and Tefnut, Geb and Nut, Osiris, Set, Isis, and Nephthys. The holiday of the receiving of Ra was celebrated on May 26th in the Gregorian calendar. His local cult began to grow from roughly the 2nd dynasty, establishing Ra as a sun deity. By the 4th dynasty, pharaohs were seen as Ra's manifestations on earth, referred to as sons of Ra. His worship increased massively in the 5th dynasty, when Ra became a state deity and pharaohs had specially aligned pyramids, obelisks, and solar temples built in his honor. The rulers of the 5th dynasty told their followers that they were sons of Ra himself and the wife of the high priest of Heliopolis. These pharaohs spent most of Egypt's money on sun temples. The first pyramid texts began to arise, giving Ra more and more significance in the journey of the pharaoh through the underworld. During the Middle Kingdom era, Ra was increasingly affiliated and combined with other chief deities, especially Amun and Osiris. At the time of the New Kingdom, the worship of Ra had become more complicated and grander. The walls of tombs were dedicated to extremely detailed texts that depicted Ra's journey through the underworld. Ra was said to carry the prayers and blessings of the living with the souls of the dead on the sun boat. The idea that Ra aged with the sun became more popular during the rise of the New Kingdom. Many acts of worship included hymns, prayers, and spells to help Ra and the sun boat overcome Apep. The rise of Christianity in the Roman Empire put an end to the worship of Ra by the citizens of Egypt, and as Ra's popularity suddenly died out, the study of Ra became of purely academic interest even among the Egyptian priests.